said, we're going to talk to you about natural family planning today. And do you have any questions? Have you ever heard of natural family planning?
I heard of natural family planning through a friend of mine, and I've heard some stuff, but I don't know a lot.
Okay, well, we're going to go over the different methods of that today. With my colleagues, I'm Breanna.
I'm Gloria.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Kimberly. I'm Zemenish.
And I'm Ashley.
And I'm Andre.
Nice to meet you guys. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so the objectives that we're going to go over today is we're going to talk to you guys about the advantages of natural family planning, and it'll help you in if you're trying to use it as a contraceptive method or if you're trying to achieve pregnancy. And this also helps you keep track of Ashley's cycle and her menstrual cycle. And just as a guide, we printed this out for you.
Perfect.
So if you want, you can follow along with that. Okay, so what is natural family planning? So this is just a method of monitoring and interpreting a woman's natural cycle in terms of fertility. So it's going to determine when you're fertile and when you're infertile. And that's going to help with planning if you want to get pregnant or if you don't want to get pregnant at a certain time. Okay, and another question that we usually have with natural family planning is why. So natural family planning is a big contraceptive method that the Catholic Church uses. So if you guys are Catholic or if you have similar values in that, this is something that you'd be interested in. And this does not require any use of drugs, devices, or medical procedures. And there won't be any associated symptoms because this is a contraceptive method that follows a woman's natural cycle. And this also respects the dignity of the human person in the context of family, marriage, and life. So, yes. And natural family planning also includes abstaining from intercourse during the fertile periods of a woman's cycle. And this does not include using contraception.
So I can't hit certain times of the month?
No, sir, you cannot.
Oh.
So, in certain times of the month, while Ashley is fertile, that would not be an ideal time for
How
you.
many days of the month?
So,
Is it a long period of time? Or...
It's long enough. Quit asking questions.
Anyways.
Okay. And so in order to understand how natural family planning works, these are some terms that you need to be familiar with. That would be the fertile window, phases of the menstrual cycle, and female anatomy. And Kimberly's going to talk to you about that.
Right. So natural family planning focuses on measuring 3 specific female hormones. So it would be like estrogen, progesterone, and luteinizing hormone. So estrogen and progesterone, they kind of act as opposite from each other. They have multiple functions in our female body, but we're only just going to focus on how it will affect our cervix. So estrogen and progesterone, estrogen stimulates cervical mucus. So
What the heck is cervical mucus?
yeah, so it's discharge.
Do I have that?
No. It's
Oh.
only females have this because estrogen and progesterone are female hormones. They're produced from our ovaries, and they're stored in our ovaries, and they secrete from our ovaries. And so cervical mucus is kind of released from high estrogen levels, and progesterone acts opposite, so it dries up the cervical mucus, and it creates like this thick, creamy looking mucus that we'll explain later in the slides. And it also raises body temperature. And luteinizing hormone is released from our brains, and it stimulates ovulation. So every woman's fertile window is different, and that's because our menstruation is unique for every woman. Like every woman's menstruation is either shorter, longer, depends. So it depends when you are fertile. But usually a couple is fertile for only 6 days, and it's the day of your ovulation and 5 days before your ovulation, and it's because sperm can live 3 to 5 days in a wife's body, and so if you know you're going to ovulate soon, you have a possibility of getting pregnant.
So it's only 6 days out of the month where I can't. Okay. Alrighty.
So by 12 to 24 hours after ovulation, a woman is no longer to get pregnant during the menstrual cycle because the egg is no longer going to be in the fallopian tubes, so the sperm won't be meeting anything to create life. So we're going to go over a little bit on the female anatomy, but we're only just going to hit the basics, okay? So we have like this pear-shaped organ right here, and that's our uterus, and this is where a baby will develop and grow. And then we have the almond-shaped organ right here. Those are our ovaries, and as I said before, that's where estrogen and progesterone is kind of produced and released, and that's also where all our eggs are. So then we have the fallopian tubes. They kind of go off like horns from the uterus, and that's where the eggs and the sperm will travel to the uterus. And then we will have our cervix. It's kind of the star of natural family planning. So our cervix secretes this mucus, and it goes through the vagina and then to the vulva, and then you see it in our underwear. And so whenever we ovulate, we have rising levels of estrogen, which is that hormone we were talking about. So when that happens, when we have high levels of estrogen, we also have high levels of luteinizing hormone. And when that happens, we have egg white consistency of mucus on our underwear, and it'll be kind of stretchy and clear. And this is the type of mucus that sperm can live in for 3 to 5 days. And it also affects our cervix by making it open and allowing sperm to travel up. And so after our ovulation cycle declines, or when we're done, when it ends, we'll have those two hormones go down, and then progesterone goes up. And progesterone, what it does on the cervix, it kind of dries it up, and that makes like this creamy, white, thick mucus on our underwear. And we'll show you examples on what that looks like, but just that's the basis overall on natural family planning and anatomy.
See, I told you it's not gross, it's natural.
Alright, so this is just another diagram to explain what I'm saying. So first day of our cycle, it starts with our menses, our period, and that's all of our hormone levels are low. Our body temperature is just regular. It's a regular temperature that we usually have it on. But once our ovulation starts, we will have a rise of, like I said, estrogen, the gray, and pink will be luteinizing hormone. They rise, and then once we're done with that ovulation, they go down and progesterone goes up. And also our body temperature raises when ovulation starts, and it kind of stays up during that period. So some markers of peak fertility would be, our cervical mucus, like I said, kind of like egg white consistency. It'll be clear and stretchy. We will have a rise in basal body temperature, and it'll be by 0.4 to 0.6 degrees of an increase. We also have a rise in luteinizing hormone and estrogen levels, and it's kind of cool now that we have all this modern technology in medicine, because now we have this monitor right here, clear blue, And it's basically these test strips that you measure your urine. You have your urine and it measures your estrogen and luteinizing hormone levels, and you use that monitor to kind of see that.
And so if I was going to get one of those, do I have to have a prescription for it, or I can just go pick one up?
You can just pick one up.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Write that down.
So you might also experience increased libido. Cervical position becomes higher, like your cervix will become higher. It will be open because of that cervical mucus won't be plugging it up, and it'll be softer. And other things that you might experience when you're fertile will be like breast tenderness or minor abdominal pain, but not all people experience that. So in summary, natural family planning focuses on our natural biological signs of fertility. So body temperature will rise, cervical mucus, you kind of have to monitor, keep track of your cervical mucus and how it is, and also keeping track of levels of your hormone levels. And then, like I said, the beginning of when you're fertile, you will experience, changes in your cervical mucus, rising levels of estrogen and like luteinizing hormone, and raised body temperature, and the change in the shape or texture of the cervix itself will change. Do you guys have any questions on that so far?
So my cervical mucus will change as I begin to ovulate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm just gonna ask, do you know the consistency of that cervical mucus when you're ovulating?
It should be clear and stretchy and kind of like egg whites?
Yes, perfect. Okay, so this is Gloria. She'll be talking about some methods.
Okay, so the methods we have listed would be the calendar rhythm, the basal body temperature, the cervical mucus, and the symptothermal method. The most effective method would be the symptothermal, and the least effective would be the calendar rhythm. Okay, so we're going to talk about the calendar rhythm. This one's a method includes tracking of the woman's ovulation cycle to figure out when she's fertile. First, the woman must monitor the cycle 6 months before she uses this as a birth control method, so it's important to keep track of it. After monitoring her cycle carefully, a woman should expect to be most fertile 12 to 14 days before her menstruation, so it's also important to keep track of your period cycle. Ms. Ashley?
Yeah, Ashley.
So before I can begin that method, I have to track my cycle for 6 months?
Yes, it would be ideal for you to either if you want to get a pregnancy or if you don't want to get pregnant.
That's just too long.
Well, there's also apps that you can use where you can track your cycle, and it'll be much easier. So you would basically kind of know what days you would be on it. So. Okay, so the second one would be the basal body temperature. This one you would have to take track of your temperature. So you would wake up in the morning and take your body temperature, and the highest one would mean that you're starting to ovulate. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to, get pregnant or avoid pregnancy as well. So the second one would be, also basal body temperature. So there are many digital thermometers that monitor temperature throughout the day, combined with an accelerometer to monitor movement. Dual fertility, worn by a woman, data uploaded to a computer through a companion device, Daisy, oral thermometer, 99.3% effective, and then there's many others that you can use to keep track of your basal body temperature. So the cervical mucus, the ovulation method. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, now Kyle, did you have any questions regarding something? On the methods?
No.
Did you know which one was the most effective if you would like to put?
Yes, the basal was much more effective than the first one.
No, actually.
You gotta check your temperature, Ashley.
Oh, you're right.
It was
You gotta listen to the doctor.
Yes.
To the nurse.
Yes.
Perfect.
Alright, so now we're going to talk about the cervical mucus or the ovulation method, okay? So this is basically when a woman checks for her cervical mucus. So you can do this like when you're trying to get pregnant, right? So, okay, good. Alright, so this is basically where you check the consistency of the cervical mucus. And also, before doing this, may I suggest that you need to avoid sexual intercourse maybe 12 hours before you're checking this. And I suggest you could do this maybe twice a week or 3 times a week. And especially when you're trying to get pregnant, you need to check your cervical mucus every day. Alright, so this is one way to check on the Creighton model, which I will talk about later. Right, so this is the different types of consistencies of your cervical mucus during your fertile and menstrual cycle. So on this bottom right one, this is where we can see it's very clear and very loose. So that's when you're most fertile. And as my colleague said a while ago, it's egg-like. And the rest of them, they're kind of different, but you can tell their similarities. Okay, sorry. That they're kind of white and very viscous. So when you touch it, it's kind of very thick and it's hard. And also there's a purpose for that, for this one to be stretchy, and no, not stretchy, but watery and very liquid-like. It allows the sperm to get in through the cervix easily. And these ones, not as easily, but you know. Alright. So this one is the Creighton model. It's just one of the types of monitoring, or the most type of monitoring for the cervical mucus. And this is the red rectangle that measures your vaginal flow or your menstrual flow during your menstruation. And this one measures the cervical mucus, or the cervical cavity during or when you're not menstruating. So that's the type. That's the chart where you can do it. We have sources available later on the slides for you to teach. And the next one is symptothermal. So it's basically one of the most, if not the most effective type of natural family planning, because it combines almost all of them, or you can choose the most effective ones, like the basal body temperature, the cervical mucus, and the calendar method, where you can combine them to increase the overall efficacy of the natural family planning. Also, this one uses the Marquette model, which combines the symptothermal with electronic fertility monitoring, which includes the clear blue. So basically, it measures your estrogen and your luteinizing hormones. And when your luteinizing hormone is above normal levels, or it's elevated, that means that you're either ovulating or you're near ovulation. All right, so these are the apps that my colleague was talking about, but I remind you that these are just predictive, okay? These are not the same as a while ago. So it's like the calendar model when you're predicting whether you're fertile or not. So the other one, this one is dynamic optimal timing. This one uses your menstrual cycle to make a chart like this and basically predict whenever you're ovulated or whenever you're fertile. The natural cycle ones, it's like the same, but it adds your basal body temperature with the menstruation. Right, so these are just the different types of charting, like for symptothermal and symptohormonal, which is almost the same. You have the Marquette one, and for your cervical fluid, you have the Creighton model and the Billings, which is kind of similar, and the calendar ones. All right, do you guys have any questions?
I'll save for the very end.
Okay, and all right, and I'll handle it to my colleague.
Alright, I'm trying to go over the effectiveness. Oh, sorry. The effectivity of the natural family planning. This method is highly effective if you want to conceive if you want to avoid the pregnancy. Always works like better. And there's 2 general conclusions. The chance of an unplanned pregnancy are greatly reduced when intercourse is limited, of course, to the post-ovulatory infertile phase. The other conclusion is all variations of the symptothermal method appears to have a significantly lower failure rate than the cervical mucus method. As my colleagues mentioned, symptothermal method is the best one. And the reported failure rates for modern natural family planning method range from less than 1 to 5% for perfect use and 2 to 25% for typical use. Alright, those are the limitations of the natural family planning method. The limitations of the NFP are related to the requirement of periodic abstinence, and as evidenced by the relatively high failure rates with typical use, some couples may not be able to do this. It's up to you guys. It depends on the couple. All natural family planning methods can, to verified degrees, overestimate the fertility period and require long periods of abstinence that might otherwise be needed. In addition to that, illness, disrupted sleep, and use of medications can alter the natural family planning method. Can alter or interfere with the observation and interpretation of some biologic markers. Okay, those are the benefits of the natural family planning method. It supports the reproductive health, and it doesn't have any environmental effect. It's environmentally friendly, and it's expensive, and also cooperates with a couple's combined fertility. It is useful to either achieve or avoid pregnancy, as I did mention to you first. And it can be used throughout the reproductive life cycle. It requires shared responsibility and cooperation by Ashley and Andre, and fosters mutual communication between husband and wife. It encourages respect for and acceptance of the total person. It promotes marital chastity. It values the child, honors God's design for married lives. If you have any questions so far.
So anybody can answer this. My question is, if I was on birth control and having irregular cycles, should I wait for a little bit before I start just naturally tracking my cycle, or should I just start tracking as soon as I get off my birth control?
You have to just check, to use this method, you have to check your period for 6 months.
So I should wait till I have another regular period?
I believe, and my colleagues can help me with this.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, those are the resources. You can just go, find the detailed information. Those are the resources you can go over. And you're gonna get some resources from the pamphlet too. Yeah, that's our experience.
So do you guys have any questions on any methods or?
So this does not apply to me, right? I don't have to check if I'm fertile or not?
Well, you don't have to check, but it is,
Important to be part of the
Yes.
process.
Yes.
We have to work together.
Yes.
Alright. Also, so the pulling out method, I can't.
That
That's
is
not.
That is not a very effective method.
Oh.
It's a form of contraception, and natural family planning focuses on not using any type of contraception.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Yeah.